All right, ladies, we are live. I am going to share my screen and give everybody 10 seconds to join. All right, let's go. So, welcome to Optimize Your Workouts with Nutrition. I'm Jenny, the nutritionist. We're going to be moving quickly. I have lots to cover here. And heads up, I am going to be sharing my screen, but let's get started. So, first, if you are lifting weights and working out and want to look like you work out or take your physique to the next level, then you're in the right place. And when I say lifting weights, I mean any type of weights. You could be doing CrossFit, maybe you're doing powerlifting or bodybuilding, or you're working out in your garage gym, or you just have dumbbells at home that you're working out with. I mean, all of that, but you want to get the most out of that workout because you want to build muscle. You want to decrease body fat. You want the lines, the curves, the definition, and you just want to feel strong and capable. And you are definitely in the right place. So, like I said, I'm Jenny, the nutritionist, and I'm going to tell you a little story. So, back in the day, this is my transformation, but back in the day, I was a gym rat. So, I would work out 6, 7 times a week, twice a day. I would go in the morning and then I would go to CrossFit in the afternoon. And I remember thinking, if I could just squeeze in one more workout, if I could just get one in at lunch and maybe hit my arms or I don't know, maybe do extra cardio, then I would be able to have the shape that I really wanted. And when it came to nutrition, I was just confused. I dabbled in a little bit of everything. I remember following my fitness pal because it told me to eat 1,200 calories. And I did that for a couple of days and I was starving. And then I met friends out for dinner and I thought, well, can I have this or can I have this? Is this good or this is not good? Oh my gosh, I'm starving. I don't really know if this is working anyway. Screw it, I'll just start over later. And so I was on this vicious cycle of sometimes I'd feel a little bit skinnier and then other times I was a little bit fluffier, but I was just trying to do more and more in the gym and following those one-off tips like some of you might be doing now, and I was frustrated. So eventually I said, screw it, I'm going all in and I am building this shape, and I signed up for my first bikini show. And that is when my physique completely changed, but not because I learned these little things here and there, but I understood and learned the strategy. So I ended up qualifying for nationals, but then I really understood the power of food in this strategy. And I worked under a mentor. I got licensed. I studied it. I studied it for myself, but also for all different types of ladies. And then I applied that outside of the bikini world to my everyday life. And so now I travel. I was just in Mexico for a few months. I'm in Austin now, but I've been able to create my shape, but then create compounding results because I know the strategy now. I understand how it works. I know exactly what to do to build muscle, decrease body fat, and I know how to do it with a routine that's on autopilot and just who I am now, and still be able to go out to eat with friends and not feeling confused and restricted and not knowing what to do, but still being able to make body composition changes because I learned the strategy. So that's what I'm going to teach you guys today. It's not just getting the most out of your workouts, it's pulling back and really getting the most out of it all. Here is what we're covering. I'm going to go over the science of current approaches, 3 steps to optimize your workouts, implementation tools, and then Q&A. I'm going to be teaching for 30 minutes, but I would block out about an hour because I'm going to be sharing implementation tools afterwards and then also answering everyone's question, which you're going to want to hear. I also know a lot of you guys want to know, okay, what is your Create Your Shape program? How do I work with you? Don't worry, we're going to cover that too. But let's dive into the materials. So first, let's just cover why in the first place do ladies lift and work out and not look like how is that possible? And it's because of 2 reasons. One, they are prioritizing the workouts over nutrition. So they've got a solid plan for the workouts, but maybe not nutrition. Or you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not working out, so it doesn't really matter what I eat anyway. Or I can't miss a workout, or everything I do is, doomed. The second thing I see is ladies are in the details, but they're not getting the big picture. So they're thinking, I can't eat this, but I can eat that. This is good. This is bad. Or I'm going to do this week challenge or do this thing over here, but not seeing how that ties to that bigger picture. So when you go in with this approach, this is what I typically see ladies doing. The food, the quantity is low. So they're cutting calories, cutting carbs, thinking that eat less mentality, salads and saying no to food or shaming themselves if they had too much oatmeal. For the quality, they're focused on 100% clean, like no processed food, like restricting sugar and candy and alcohol, and really making sure they are perfect and tidy on the types of food. For the workouts, more is better. Like, how can I burn more calories? How can I add in additional WODs or additional running or additional abs? I'm saying this because this is the stuff I used to do, right? On top of my lifting, how can I do more and more and more? And then for the strategy, or maybe a lack of strategy, because they're short-term efforts, maybe it's a 1 to 2 week, crash diet or a 30-day challenge. And then the approach is very generic. So maybe it's a meal plan that so-and-so has done, or maybe these generic macros that so-and-so has shared, right? So when you're doing all of these things, this is what it results in. It's a lot of effort. Doing all of that and trying to balance like what you should be doing and doing it all is exhausting. And it's super frustrating because then you have this poor relationship with food and thinking like shame and guilty every time that an event with food comes up. It's also frustrating because maybe it creates you to be a little bit skinnier and tighter sometimes, but then other times you're just feeling fluffier. And so then you're just going back and forth in this vicious cycle, but you're never actually seeing what your body is fully capable of in the shape you can create, because you're not actually building muscle or creating a new settling point. You're not changing your body composition. So when you're not doing that, that's when you lift and don't look like it for how much you're lifting and working out. So here's the science behind this. When you're focused on cutting carbs, cutting calories, eating less, and then burning more and adding workouts, that creates a prolonged calorie deficit. So when you have this calorie deficit gap, it may work at first, but our bodies are smart and they're going to adapt and they're going to catch on and say, oh, I see what you're doing here. I'm going to adapt and adjust for what's best for me and what's healthiest for me. So in the long term, that is not going to work. Then when you're focused on restricting foods, eating perfect, so I'm not going to have any drinks, any candy, any sugar, I'm not going to go out to eat, I'm going to only eat 100% clean food. Well, that's not bad per se, right? But you're just not focused on what's going to give you the most bang for your buck, because quantity is king and reigns supreme over quality. Then when you're doing the 1 to 2 week, like, oh, I've got a vacation coming up, gonna tighten it up a little bit, or these crash diets or like 30-day challenges, they're just not long enough. It takes about a month to put on a half a pound, maybe a couple pounds of muscle when done like optimally, in to decrease about a half a pound of body fat. I'm not talking about the scale, I'm talking about body fat and changing that settling point. You can do that in a healthy, sustainable way, about a half a pound per week. So changing your body composition is a long game. It takes time. So you want to be consistent over that long period of time. Not perfect. Quantity is king, remember? But consistent over that longer period of time. So then When you have all of these like one-off tips that you're implementing, maybe like, oh, I'm gonna add a protein shake in here, or I'm gonna fast now, or I'm gonna do keto now, or I'm gonna try this and that, there is no cohesive plan that's based on science specifically and customized to you. So here are all the things you don't need to do based on this science. You don't have to eat perfectly and work out 24/7 or feel hungry all the time or use an online calculator that's just going to cut calories or do these short-term efforts. Instead, I suggest changing your mentality and your approach first to focus on these things. Prioritize nutrition over training. So have a plan for your nutrition because that's going to be 70+% of your results. I'm not saying training is not important. It definitely is. And there's ways you can optimize it. But are you optimizing your nutrition game plan even more? Next is prioritize the science over doing it all. So instead of thinking, oh, I need to eat perfectly, I need to track everything down to the gram, I need to, work out more and do this and do that and do it all perfectly. Instead, lean on the science of what's most important, going to make the most impact. And as we just chatted about, that's going to be quantity of food and consistency. And then lastly, prioritize a strategy over random efforts. So instead of taking these one-off tips and just adding them on and doing this one sometimes and this and this and this, instead back up and make sure everything you're doing aligns to the framework, the overarching strategy that you have at play. So pretty much what you're doing here is you're going to get more out of your workouts by working smarter instead of harder for both your training and nutrition. So once you have this approach and this mindset, then you can implement these 3 steps to optimize your workout and build your shape. First, eat enough. Second, align your training. And third, have a nutrition strategy. We are moving quickly, and I'm going to go into each one of these. But first, I want you to ask yourself, when it comes to these, do you know how much you're burning per day or how much you're consuming per day? Are you consistent with that intake day in and day out? For your training, does your training align to the body shape that you want to create? Does it align to the phase of nutrition that you're in? Are you on a progressive overload program? Are you considering nutrient timing? For your strategy, do you have a plan mapped out over time? Does it have monthly focuses with higher and lower intake and that aligns to your training too? And are you tracking metrics that are outside of just the scale? And do you have a custom plan that goes down to the macro level that's specific to you? So we're going to cover and dive into these. So the first step is eating enough. 99% of my ladies are chronically under eating, not because they're intentionally trying to starve themselves, but just because of the routine that they've set up from maybe doing diets in the past or from just thinking that certain foods are good or bad. It's the routine that they've created. So 99% of you guys on the call are also chronically under eating. So if you're eating 1,400 calories, like on this graph of calories that you're consumed, and generally I see ladies, 1,500, 1,200, sometimes 900 per day, and sometimes even 1,700 per day. But it is still way less than the calories that are being burned per day. For ladies who are lifting, you are burning 2,000 plus calories per day. And so when you're constantly in this prolonged calorie deficit, this creates the calorie gap. When you have this gap, your body is going to adapt. It's going to suppress your metabolism and impact other hormones inside your body, other functions inside your body. It is a stressor on your body. And then your body's thinking, okay, well, I don't know when she's going to consistently give me enough nutrients that I need. I'm going to hold on to all of this. I'm not going to let go of any extra storage, AKA body fat. And you may not even know it, but you may have lower energy because you're not consuming enough fuel for your body. And specifically, you don't have enough materials for your normal day-to-day functions. You don't have any extra to build muscle. So from here, you have two options. One, you can continue working out more and more and more and drive the calories down and down and down and restrict more and more and more. But that's just digging you further in the hole and going to be very difficult to sustain. May work, but most likely I don't see it work. The other option is to eat enough. So I suggest strategically increasing your calories and macros to change your body composition. So first you want to close that calorie gap, but done in a slow and steady and strategic way where your body can adjust. You're getting biofeedback to know how to specifically make adjustments, and you're doing it at the macro level. So everybody knows what calories is, but when you double click down, that's when you have your macros. So all calories are made up protein, carbs, and fat, and that's your macros. And that's how you get super specific and custom to you at an even deeper level. So when you start steadily increasing your intake, your body then has enough fuel and enough nutrients to feel safe to start letting go and start changing that body composition. You have more fuel, so you're going to have more energy, and you'll have more energy to push yourself in your workouts, but then you'll also have the materials, that extra materials, to start building muscle. And you guys, when you're eating more, you have so much more flexibility to be able to have different foods and make it sustainable for the long term, because consistency is huge. You're also going to have benefits like your hair, your skin, your nails. It's just going to be able to get more of those micronutrients too. So here are a few do's and don'ts. I don't suggest just vaguely eating more and dirty bulking, or eating tons of food and then eating way less, or using a random calculator or generic macros and numbers and templates. What I do suggest having is being consistent daily and having a steady increase and a custom breakdown, and starting to increase from your starting point, and not just saying, all right, I'm going to double my intake tomorrow. So I know what you guys are thinking. If I eat more, I'm for sure going to get fat and gain weight. Like, is that part of the process? And absolutely not. I never see anybody start packing on the pounds when eating more, when done in a strategic and slow and steady way. So I have my ladies do a weekly check-in. And so here is what some of them are saying that I want to share with you guys to this point. Let's top one. I have more energy, feel better, less tired and dragging. My mood has benefited tremendously. Exactly. Okay, here on the left, she says, my waist is shrinking, my belly feels flatter, my shirts are fitting more loosely around my middle. I am starting to see some lines in my chest, and delts are starting to come through. Much less bloating and more regular bowel movements. My energy just feels cleaner. Yes. All right, down below, this is probably my favorite one. She says, I thought I had energy before, but boy, I feel great every day now. Like, this is what's possible. So here is something that you can start implementing right away. If you are new to tracking your food, I would track a day and see what you're consuming. Or if you're used to that, then I would challenge you to increase about 100 calories every other week. So I get the specifics and customize this for my ladies, but this is like very generic guideline to just start considering. Moving right through these. All right, so now that we're eating enough, then you can align your training. So we want your goal and your training and your nutrition to create a triangle of success. So does your training consider your goal? Is it aligned with your nutrition? Do they support each other in that goal? So for example, I've had somebody that had the goal of like, okay, I want to build a booty. I'm like, great. What training are you doing? She's like, well, I'm doing some lower body exercises, but I'm also running and adding in some additional like cardio on top of that. I'm like, okay, what about your nutrition? She's like, oh, well, I'm cutting calories and I'm cutting carbs. So you can see there that the training's not specific. It's also not aligned to the goal, and it doesn't consider the nutrition of what it takes to make that happen. So when you have these aligned and strategic, then you can break it down a little further. So you can look at the goal, which most of my ladies, their goal is to build their shape, and change their body composition, which that means building muscle and decreasing body fat. So you can break it down at that level. So for your training is going to support building muscle. And then your nutrition is going to also help support building muscle, but also be the heavy lifter for decreasing body fat. So then you can look at each of those and just fine tune it and optimize it even more. So for your training, do your exercises aligned to the shape you want to create. So if you want to build a booty and you're not doing hip thrusts, that's got to be a part of it, right? And you can even fine tune and look through all of it at that level. Are you on a progressive overload training program? So do you have a plan that's going to continue to have you build in strength and tax that muscle, and that you can track to know that you're building for that specific shape that you want to create? It may not just be one body part too. It may be a ton of different goals, but this is just one example. So for example, are you doing a hip thrust and you hit 100 pounds, and then in 2 weeks you hit 110, and then in 2 weeks after that you hit 120, right? You can track your weights like that. So then for nutrition, when it comes to building muscle, so for your training, kind of backing up, you want to create a stimulus on that muscle that breaks down those fibers to be able to build back bigger and stronger. So that's why you need those specific exercises and to be able to track your weights to make sure you're doing that. Then we're training, or where nutrition comes into play, you have to make sure you're eating enough to have the building blocks and the materials to be able to support building back those muscles bigger and stronger. Then you can optimize that even further, like things like nutrient timing. And that's just how you're placing certain foods around your workout. So for example, you want to stack your carbs around your workout. So you might have heard, oh, someone said to have a jelly sandwich before working out. Should I just have a jelly sandwich? But really, if you back it up and understand the framework, it's really stacking your carbs around your workout. So then when you go down to how to use nutrition to be able to decrease body fat, well, first, you're going to increase your metabolism through eating enough, like we talked about earlier. Then when you're eating more, you're in a much better position to enter into a calorie deficit. So when everything aligns, you just can look at it at a more fine-tuned view, and start being more intentional with everything that you're already doing. So it doesn't take more, it's just being more intentional and working smarter instead of harder. So here are a few do's and don'ts. I don't suggest just doing random workouts that you see on Instagram and on YouTube, or trying to put on a bunch of muscle and hit PRs, but then also be in a calorie deficit, or fast before your workouts and not have that food available to push and recover. I do suggest being on progressive overload training program in lifting heavy for that muscle. It doesn't mean everybody here needs to be lifting hundreds of pounds, right? But taxing it for your level and for that muscle. And eating enough to support the repair and support protein synthesis in connecting your mind to the muscle that you're wanting to work. So here's an example of one of my ladies. So you can see her before and after. She lost some body fat, but really put on muscle. She has a perky booty now, tight abs, and she just looks like a fit chick. So before, she was eating 1,200 calories, 50 grams of fat. She was kind of doing a lifting program, but also adding in some cardio and some Pilates. Then what we implemented is we slowly and steadily started working her up to 2,200 calories. So she went from 50 grams of carbs up to 220 grams of carbs. She kept on the same lifting program, but we scheduled it. We had her track her weights and she was more intentional with it. So she was progressing and on a progressive overload program now and utilizing it like that. She made the mind muscle connection to the muscles that she wanted to work. And it paid off because she looks fantastic and she ended up doing less in terms of working out and eating more, but it was done in a strategic way. So here is what I challenge you guys to do. I would track your weights over the next couple of months and see how you progress over the time to know that you are increasing your muscle in strength. Okay, so now that you have number 1 and number 2, you're eating enough and you have your training aligned, now you have number 3, have a nutrition strategy. And this is probably the most important one. So what it means is you're taking your nutrition and your training and you're aligning them together and you are placing them on a plan over months. Because remember, this is a long game. It takes about a month to gain a half a pound to a couple pounds of muscle and to decrease about a half a pound of body fat, not scale, right? Body fat it's about a half a pound per week. So since this is a long game, you want to focus on quantity and consistency, not necessarily being perfect with quality. So here are the 3 phases of the strategy. Phase 1, you're going to increase your intake and align your training and be more intentional with that training. After you're at a higher intake, then you're in a position for phase 2, which then you can do a calorie deficit. And then phase 3, you don't want to stay at that calorie deficit because then you'll be right back where you were before. Phase 3, you want to steadily increase your intake back up. So if you look over here to the right, this is an example of one of my ladies. So this is why my program is a 4-month program, right? So we spend a little over 2 months increasing intake, optimizing your training. And then, so like this person went from about 1,400 calories up to 2,200 calories. And then you can do a calorie deficit where you build your shape, you've changed your body composition. Now you can focus on really decreasing body fat even more in this calorie deficit, but you can do it where you're eating 1,700 calories and you're still in this calorie deficit, which is more than what most of my ladies come to me eating, or like this person, for example, at 1,400. That is a small and dedicated time period where it's really focused. And then you start increasing back up to what you're burning because you don't want to stay in that calorie deficit long term. And you can do all of this with custom calories in custom macros to make it even more specific to you based on your training style, your body type, your day-to-day, and what you've been previously eating in your history. So here are a handful of do's and don'ts. I don't suggest doing short-term efforts or trying to achieve all of your goals at the same time or being in a calorie deficit for more than 2 to 3 months max at one time. That's actually really long for what we do in the program too. What I do suggest is eating enough first and aligning your heavier training with your higher intake and using other metrics outside of the scale, like using your biofeedback and sleep and strength and energy and how your clothes are fitting and is your body composition changing. Also, when you are at a higher intake and when you're focused on building, you have more flexibility to include like eating out and vacations and things like that. But when you're in that shorter, that's really going to be what the lifestyle is, right? And just it can be just who you are. And then when you're in the calorie deficit, that's a shorter period of time where you do want to be a little bit more accurate and strict. So I want to share with you a couple of examples of ladies that I've worked with so you can see how the nutrition strategy plays out. So here on the left is Jamie. So she was doing CrossFit in her garage 4 days a week when she came to me. and she was eating 1,200 calories. And she said, I have a sweet tooth. I just can't stick to anything. And that tells me immediately that she's not eating enough. So we actually didn't change her training at all. And we didn't go into a calorie deficit. We immediately just steadily started increasing her intake. And we built her up from 1,200 to 1,900 and counting. And she obviously looks way better and now doesn't feel like she needs to diet or cut calories. So then in the middle here, I have my client Amy. So she was doing CrossFit and eating about 50 grams of carbs. And she wanted to build a booty, which clearly she has done. So I suggested a program that was going to optimize that, the shape that she was looking to create. And during that, we also increased her carbs up to closer to 200. And then we implemented a calorie deficit to really just show off the shape that she's created even more. Here on the bottom right, this is my client, Ellen. So she was a strength and conditioning coach. So she is familiar with training, familiar with bits and pieces of nutrition, but she just didn't trust herself or the plan to be able to increase her intake up and know how to do it in a slow and steady way. And when we were able to do that and just fine tune everything a little bit more, she built up more muscle. She looks tighter in her abs and in her booty, but she also changed her relationship with food and was able just to relax of this being on and being off of it and just be who she is. And she got her cycle back. So her overall health improved too. So I wanted to show you an example of what this looks like as far as numbers. And this is just a part of my ladies' dashboard that each of them have. But you can see like this person started out at 1,400 calories and steadily we increased her up based on her custom macros up to 2,000. And she did lose 7 pounds during just that process, which it's going to depend where you're at as far as the scale and what other things you're seeing as far as your photos and your biofeedback. But here's an example of when you put everything together in a plan versus just looking at these one-off things where you can't really analyze it and you don't have the metrics to be able to make decisions with. And then you can see we went into the calorie cut and then started to build her back up there. So here's what I suggest for you that you can implement now. Map out 4 months of your strategy of when you're building and then when you're cutting, and align that with your training. So that is the masterclass. But I want to offer you guys to not take some of this information and then in a couple of months be eating a little bit more sometimes, then less a little bit more sometimes, because you may be in the position where you're lifting and not looking like it, or you have all these pieces all together or not all together, right? Or you're feeling like mentally bogged down because you're like, I know I'm capable of really like building my shape, but I'm just like going back and forth and back and forth. Or maybe you feel overwhelmed every single time where you eat and you're like, can I eat this? Should I eat this? Is this the right food? Is this the wrong food? Is this too much? Not enough? And so I want to offer that instead of feeling that way and being in the same place like 6 months or a year from now, that you apply these 3 steps now. Eat enough, align your training, implement a nutrition strategy to create a sense of ease, like know exactly what to do to build your shape and decrease body fat, and understand what's most important so you know what to emphasize, what your focus should be each month, and what you can expect from your body each month to be able to change your body composition and build muscle and create a new settling point and not just going back and forth. That's when you're able to rock the sports bra, wear the tank tops, wear the crop tops, and just feel like a badass and feel strong and capable. So I want to offer that you don't wait and you implement these 3 steps, because it's frustrating to be in the vicious cycle. I was there for a long time. And what I really missed out on and what ladies miss out on is the compounding effects of creating your shape. Like I said, when I first did my bikini show, my physique's way better now because I was able to repeat this process and fine tune it and tweak it and adjust it time and time again. And that's why you and ladies can create their shape and build out their shape and improve year after year and create compounding results, even if you're getting older, despite what everyone says. So I want to offer that you implement these 3 steps with me in my Create Your Shape program. Create Your Shape is a 4-month nutrition coaching and one-on-one group program where we accomplish 3 things. We're going to change your body composition. So we're going to build muscle, decrease body fat. You're going to learn and understand the nutrition strategy, but you're going to understand food, understand how it works for active ladies, and understand how to piece it together and how understand food so you can make decisions. And then number 3, you're going to create a nutrition system. So a routine, a nutrition routine that runs on autopilot. So it just becomes who you are, and it's not extra effort and things that you have to do more of, but something that you're quick and efficient at. It's just who you are and you feel balanced with that. So here's what it looks like in the program. So you're going to have a one-on-one custom calorie and macro plan that gets updated. We're going to have weekly check-ins, and I'll be tracking your progress too. Based on the information on that, you'll have your own dashboard. We're also going to have a one-on-one nutrition strategy and training call. So this is where we cover really what we talked about today, but in more detail specific to you in optimizing your training to make sure you're getting the most out of it. Most of my ladies are already lifting or already on some program, which is awesome. If not, I give guidance on which might be best for you. Or I may say, yeah, that program looks great. Let's fine tune it by focusing on this, this, and this, and pairing it with your nutrition. We also have a weekly group coaching call. So this is where I spend lots of time teaching, lots of time coaching, and you'll have access to the toolkit, which has all of the modules and guides and references that we cover at your fingertips. And you'll have access to the community. So all of the ladies in the Create Your Shape program, very similar to you. They love to work out. They want to build muscle, decrease body fat, and they want to understand it. And they want it to be like just who they are and create these compounding results. You'll also have unlimited access to me once you're in the program. Like your goal is my goal. I am the coach that I work with you one-on-one. So you guys have an email in your inbox with this link where you can learn more about the program and apply. It is jennythenutritionist.com/create-your-shape. This program starts in June, and early enrollment is now open and closes on April 21st. And so what you'll do is you'll go to the link and you'll apply by filling out the application and scheduling your consult with me. On the consult call, we go over where you're at specifically, what your goals are, and go through all the details of the program so you feel comfortable before signing up. So this program is a one-time investment of $3,000 to create your shape, to create your understanding of nutrition so you can make decisions and know how it works, and to create a routine that feels on autopilot to create compounding results again and again and again. So I know a lot of you guys are super go-getters. That's probably why you're on this call and you're like, okay, I love planning ahead. June sounds great, but I want to make changes now. So for ladies who have registered for this masterclass, I am offering a special bonus for you guys. When you apply by end of day this Sunday, the 11th, you are also going to get, when you apply and schedule your consult, and we go through that, you are going to get a macro cheat sheet. So whether you're just new to macros and need to understand them, this is going to be the tool for you, or you are already tracking macros but need to know how to optimize it, how to make it more efficient, how to understand food more, how to be able to estimate. this tool is going to help you with that before we even get into the program. Then the second piece is you're going to have a custom early guidance plan. So based on our conversation, I'm going to be able to send over to you a handful of things for you to start implementing that are custom to you right away. So then you can start making progress now, but then you'll also be in a really good position to go all in once we start the full program. So really quick, the Create Your Shape program is a 4-month nutrition program. To summarize, we accomplish 3 things: changing your body composition, you're learning the nutrition strategy, and you're creating a nutrition system. You'll have a one-on-one calorie and macro plan that I update based on your check-ins and your biofeedback. We'll have a dashboard that tracks all of this. We're also going to have a one-on-one nutrition strategy and training call to fine-tune your training and to go over the strategy specifically for you in more detail. Every week, we're also going to have coaching calls where you're going to be learning and teaching and getting coached. And then you'll have access to the toolkit and all of the materials, the community of ladies that are motivated and inspiring, but also relatable, and unlimited access to me. This program starts in June. Early enrollment is now open. You will apply by filling out the application and scheduling your consultation call with me. And when you apply by end of day Sunday, you'll also get the 2 bonuses, the macro cheat sheet and the custom early application plan. So now I want to open it up for any questions that you guys have, whether on the program, on the Create Your Shape program, or on any of the material that we covered today. You can go down to the bottom of your screen and there's a Q&A section there. You can fill out and type your question in there, and then I'll go through them and answer through them. I am available as long as you guys need me and have questions. I'm going to go through and answer everybody. I do have some common questions that I get though, so I'll start with those as the questions trickle in. So first is, how much time does this program take? So per week, it's about an hour to an hour and a half. So the weekly coaching calls are about 45 minutes to an hour. And then between the check-in and just getting through some of the materials to focus on it is maybe an additional 15 to 30 minutes. So about an hour and a half per week. But everything in the program we do is thought of like, how can we be efficient? Because that's going to be more consistent. So you're already training, you're already eating. We want to optimize those and make those more efficient. So you'll probably save time there. Another question I get is, what are some example meals? Like what can I eat? What can I eat? And so I am really big on 80 to 90% real foods that pull from the ground, trees, fresh meat, fish, but that 10 to 20% of balance and convenient snacks. And I go over weekly treat and drink guidelines, because remember, it's not about being perfect of the quality. We're going to really be specific about the quantity over time. And you are your average. So even that, you don't have to be so perfect with, especially in the first phase. So you can eat with your, and I go into detail and really teach what this looks like and give guidelines so you feel really comfortable with all of this. But you can definitely eat with your family. You can go out to eat, right? There's nothing that's off limits, but I'm going to give guidelines to make sure that quality is still a factor, even though we are going to be focused on quantity. And the last question I get, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so you can see me and I can see the questions, is this right for me? And if you are lifting in any capacity 4 times a week or more, right? And you're wanting to build your shape, you're wanting to build muscle, decrease body fat, understand how it works, and create your shape and build muscle and really have the lines, curves, definition, and make it be who you are and understand at that level and create that routine, then any of those, this program is definitely for you. All right. So one of my clients says, came in and said, so my clients asked, should I come to this? And I said, yeah, hearing it 1,000 different ways is only going to improve. So if you want to come join us, even though we cover this even more detail in the program. But she says, this is the best thing I've done for my body and my mindset and just my longevity. Do it, you guys. Awesome. Thanks, girl. Appreciate you. Okay, Danica is asking, if I go to 6 a.m. CrossFit and don't have time to eat before, do you suggest I eat something specific before I go to bed? Okay, gotcha. Good question. And so what I would suggest is, because since it sounds like you're going to CrossFit and you're actually going to the gym, I would suggest not having protein or fats, but just having a quick digesting carb before you go to that class and start off really small. So I would, as soon as you wake up, try to get in something like a rice cake would be an example, right? We're thinking of carbs, and then we're thinking of something that is quicker digested, so maybe a little bit more processed. So baby foods, like the sweet potato baby foods, are a great option because they're in the patch, and then you can just slurp them down. Or a rice cake, or maybe some pretzels, right? Just having something there. And then you can see how you feel in the workout, and then you might be able to increase that quantity a little, but that would be my suggestion there. It's just to have something as soon as you wake up, as you're getting ready to head out the door. Really good question. All right, another question that I have, I'm seeing more come through, is when does the program start again? So this program starts in June, and it is open for enrollment now. So going back, we're accomplishing three things in the Create Your Shape program over this 4-month time. It is a nutrition program, and that's going to be the main focus because you get the most out of it, but we're also going to make sure your training is optimized. So we're creating three things in this program. We are changing your body composition. We are teaching you so you understand the nutrition strategy. And we're creating a routine that runs on autopilot and just who you are, even if you have vacations or going out to eat and things like that. And it includes, so how do we execute on that? That is going to be through one-on-one custom calorie and macro plan where I review your check-ins and updates. You have a dashboard that's going to track all of the metrics so we can get fine-tuned if we need to. And there's going to be a weekly group coaching call where I'm going to be teaching on the calls. You're going to have access to your toolkit with all the different modules and documents and teachings in there. And then you're going to have access to the community. We're on a Facebook group together where we share recipes. Their ladies post like their workouts for form checks and like motivation and just inspiration and just struggles too in there too that we coach on. So that starts in June, but when you guys apply and schedule your consult by end of day this Sunday, you're also going to get the 2 bonuses, which is the macro cheat sheet and the custom guidance plan. So you can start making changes and adjustments now to be ready to go for that June start date. All right, the next question is, let me scroll down here. And if you guys have additional questions, like you can just keep popping them in that Q&A section, and I'll go through and I'll answer all of them. Someone says, I'm already on a training program. I'm not sure if it's the best. Like, what kind of guidance will you give? Okay, so on our one-on-one call, we're going to talk about your specific nutrition strategy, but we're also going to dive into your specific training. And we're going to make sure that it is optimized for your goal, your schedule, the equipment access that you have, and what you enjoy. So it needs to fit all of those. So I'm going to review it and see if it does, how it aligns to those and how we can alter it or adjust it. Or I may say, hey, actually, I don't think this program is the best for you. I know you don't love it. I know you're looking for something else. I have a suggestion for you to do. It could be a handful of different programs. They are not, I don't do personalized one-on-one program. There's so many great options out there that I'm aware of that I will suggest, but it has to align to your goal and your schedule and the equipment you have access to, in what you enjoy, right? In the level that you're at, right? If you are newer to lifting, then we're not going to put you on an advanced program where you got to use all these different machines, right? We're going to make sure that it aligns with the level that you're at too. Good question. All right, let's see, what else do we have? I'm going to grab some water. Okay, someone asked, how much flexibility does this have? Like, I'm okay tracking my macros and eating well, but I also like to go on date nights and live my life. Totally get you. So, like I mentioned, I am going to cover and go over how to include weekly treats and drinks. My suggestion is 1 to 2 treats per week, 1 to 4 drinks per week on average. So you might have a bachelorette party where that might be a little bit more, or you might have some weekends where that might be a little bit less. And that is okay. It's on average. And I'm going to go over when that can be looser versus when that will be, might want to like rein that in a little bit. I'm also going to have tracking breaks. And so I have a concept called nutrition vacations. And this doesn't mean, okay, free for all, just binge, it's a cheat meal, right? It's very intentional for you to mentally be able to take a break from tracking and take a break from being so on top of it, but still feel directional with your goals. So I go over all of the details of that and how to implement that. And I'm very much in the program, very much, okay, learn the framework and learn the process and the step-by-step to be able to handle any obstacle that may come up. Same thing like eating out. Like, we're going to cover eating out in the process for that, not for just don't eat out or just choose this one restaurant, but how to eat out no matter what the scenario is, and here are the guidelines. Same thing with like meal prepping, right? Some of you guys might be like, I don't want to meal prep 24/7, but all day on my Sunday. And I'm like, great, you don't have to. Here is the framework of what's important. Here's how you can be efficient. Here are different ways to look at it. Sometimes you're going to be out of town for the weekend, have to come back in and need an option for that. We cover that too. So kind of going back to what I was talking about, we do take breaks from tracking, but I also teach you how to track so it shouldn't be such a headache or such a time suck or something that feels like it's taking a lot of mental energy. And that just, if that is the case, that's fine. That is typical, right? But I want you guys to understand how food actually works and how to categorize foods. And the macro cheat sheet is really going to help you with that. And that's why I think it's important that you guys have this first and right away to start getting more familiar with food. So that way it just feels easier and second nature when it comes to hitting macro targets. All right. Do you guys have anything else? I'm going to wait a couple more seconds to see if any, or a couple more minutes to see if anything else pops up. If you have any questions on the strategy or your training or the program, or if I always tell people, okay, imagine if you're in the program in your second month in and you're waking up and you're going to execute. What's going on? Where do you have thoughts or questions? What's showing up for you? And then we can cover it. Okay, someone said, I've done macros before, and it worked, but I feel like I never understood how to track them easily. And so I'm worried about doing that again and not being able to track easily. Gotcha. Okay. So this is very common. And as you can see, like macros are the most effective way to build your shape because it gives you, it puts the emphasis on what's most important: quantity and consistency, because it gives you so much freedom when it comes to food. So maybe your goal is 175 grams of carbs, and you get to decide what that looks like. And it can be spontaneous and in the moment, because when you understand food, that's possible. When it's challenging and when it feels frustrating is when you are just following a meal plan where you can only have X, Y, and Z, or you can only eat 100% clean food, or you don't understand how macros work to be able to pair the food with the targets you need. So I like to think of them as food, like macros are just understanding food, and then your targets is just understanding what your body needs, and then we're pairing those together. And so something that we're going to cover in more detail, and go in, it shows you on the macro cheat sheet, but we covered in the program too, is how simple it can be. So for example, for protein, let's say your goal is 120 grams of protein. Well, a hand size of protein is going to be about 4 ounces. That's a standard serving of any protein. So any meat or fish on average is going to be about 30 grams of protein. And so you need 120 per day. So then we talk about your structure day to day and creating your plate and how to structure your plate. But if just looking at the simple math, if you take that 120 divided by the 4, let's say the 4 meals you're having per day, maybe it's 3 meals and a protein shake, you know you need to get about 30 grams of protein in each meal. Or that's going to be about a hand size at each meal. So then, without even tracking, you can know just to get those in and you're going to be good, right? And then tracking just fine tunes it a little bit more. And you can do the same thing with carbs and fat. So it really can be simple, but you have to be able to understand it and be taught that framework and be taught the categories. All right, you guys, if you don't have anything else, then we're going to end. Oh, something else popped through. If you've been in a deficit for too long, do you find it takes longer for your body to feel safe to finally drop weight and body fat? Yes, I do. So if you have been eating, so let's say 900 calories for years on end, or months and months and maybe a year or years, right? And you slowly start increasing, your body's going to be like, cool, okay, I'm finally getting some more food in, but I'm still only getting 1,100 calories in, right? When I'm burning 2,400 per day, like this still isn't enough, but I appreciate it. And then when you get in a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, then finally you can say, oh, okay, I see you're finally giving me the nutrients I need. I can start repairing everything internally, and then I can feel safe to start letting go. So yes, I definitely see that. So Chrissy just said, not a question, just want to, so Chrissy is one of my ladies. She said, just want to say you've been an amazing coach, and I can't tell you how much your program has already changed my life. I went from chronically over exercising and under eating to having so much extra time for friends and family and not feeling guilty about pancakes on Saturday. Smiley face. I've been a part of so many programs and they've all been unsuccessful. I'm already so happy with my results physically and mentally only after 5 weeks. XO. You're going to make me cry, Chrissy. Thank you so much for sharing. And this is, like she said, it's been 5 weeks, but this is a perfect example of what happens and what I see, but also of someone who just takes the coaching and and implements it, right? And makes it happen. So you've been putting in the work, girl, and now you have the time and physique, and this is only just the beginning. So super excited for you, and I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. All right, I'll give anybody else a minute or two because questions are kind of popping up and things are popping up here and there. All right, they say, followed a plan to gradually increase calories. Workout was progressive overload. Got up to 1,900 calories, but was gaining too much weight. Scared to bring up calories again, but down to 1,500 and can't lose weight. Okay, so if you were increasing your calories and you were gaining weight, then that is where the problem is. And that's where it sounds like that it wasn't done in a strategic and steady way that was customized to you, and looking at metrics to be able to track. So first, you shouldn't be gaining weight. And so when you say too much weight, it probably should have stopped once it got to even a trend of an increase. Two, were they looking at other metrics too, like how your sleep is? Do you have any blood work, right? For all of my ladies too, I offer blood work reviews because that's an important part of it's an extra piece of data information where we can optimize and fine tune the plan even more. So was that being looked at? What type of food were you having? Was it structured in an optimal way? So for my ladies, we talk about having a structure and creating your plate. One, those are in place to, again, make this a routine and on autopilot, but also they are important from a science perspective when it comes to insulin. So there's so many different ways to fine tune things outside of the calories and even macros that I would be reviewing and looking at and looking for trends. So that is what it sounds like has happened here. And it's probably the same reason, even if you're at 1,500 and can't lose weight. And I will say too that there are sometimes cases that need extra, like a different approach than this, right? This is really best for the lady who has maybe 5 pounds to lose and they want to change their body composition to maybe up to 25 pounds to lose. And they're like, yeah, I want to put on muscle, but I also have some body fat I need to lose. All right. When you start getting to 40 pounds and above, that takes a different approach because it just needs to be slower. And there's also lifestyle components and mental relationship with food components that also need to be addressed from a different angle that we address in this program. So that is something else to consider too that I want to share. Who is this best for? All right, ladies. Have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and creating your mindset from doing all the things to understanding what's most important to be able to optimize your training and your nutrition. Reminder that the Create Your Shape program starts in June, but now open enrollment is available. The link is in your inbox for you to apply. When you apply by end of day and schedule your consult by end of day Sunday, you are going to get the 2 bonuses, the custom guidance plan and also the macro cheat sheet. In the Create Your Shape program, it's a 4-month program. We're accomplishing 3 things: changing your body composition. We are having you understand the nutrition strategy and understand food and what it takes at a whole new level. And we are changing your routine when it comes to nutrition so it feels easy and on autopilot and just becomes who you are. So you can see all the details of everything that's included on the info page. That's jennythenutritionist.com/create-your-shape. And you can apply there, and then we'll hop on a Zoom call and dive into the details of where you're at now and your goals and what it would look like working together in more detail. All right, ladies, have a fantastic rest of your evening. and I will talk with you soon. Bye-bye.